My name is Richard. I'm a journalist and psychologist, and for several years now, I've been collecting real-life stories of people who have encountered things that defy logical explanation. Sometimes my interviewees cry. Sometimes they laugh, trying to downplay their fear. But almost always, the same thing emerges. They're talking about something that left a mark. Today's story is precisely that. A 32-year-old woman named Anna told me about it. We met after she read one of my publications and wrote that she wanted to share something that has tormented her since childhood. Anna grew up in a small village in the north. Nearby was an old pine forest, deep and damp. Even in summer, it smelled of earth and pine needles, as if the moss there never dried out. Beyond the forest lay an abandoned lake. The elders said there used to be a swimming hole there, but about 30 years ago, a young, beautiful girl drowned. They said she'd had a fight with her fiancé and gone to the water alone. Her body was found only a week later, in the reeds, with her eyes open. After that, people began avoiding the area. Anna first heard this story from her grandmother when she was about 10 years old. She didn't believe it then. It was just a horror story. But as an adult, she remembered that lake again when she went there with friends. It was summer 2015. A warm evening, almost sunset. A group of 5, Anna, her boyfriend Igor, 2 friends, and her friend's boyfriend. They brought a thermos, food, and speakers and decided to have a campfire night. No alcohol, just for the atmosphere. At first, everything was calm. They laughed, toasted bread, and listened to music. But the darker it got, the stranger the forest itself seemed. The sound of the wind disappeared. Even the cicadas fell silent. Anna said that at some point she felt a silence that was unnatural, as if the air had become denser. She sat closest to the water and noticed a light steam rising from the surface, even though the evening was warm. The water looked like glass. But beneath that glass, something was moving. At first I thought it was a fish, she said, but the movements were too smooth. Not splashes, not waves. It was as if something was simply moving underwater right along the bottom. Igor moved closer to shine his flashlight. The light picked out the reeds, the shore, the reflections of his friends. And then, something white. A face appeared for a moment. Pale, as if a cold fire glowed beneath the skin. Eyes open, mouth slightly open, as if the person wanted to scream at the last moment. They recoiled. No one screamed. It was as if their tongues had gone numb. Then a splash. Loud, single. And immediately, the smell. Wet, rotten, as if something had risen from the depths that had lain there too long. They ran. First Anna, then the others. They could barely find the path in the darkness. Branches hit their faces, and someone fell. When they reached the road, everyone stood silently, breathing heavily. No one said a word until they reached home. A few days later, Igor began to change. He became lethargic, slept poorly, and said he could hear water. Not drops, not rain, but a splash, footsteps in shallow water. Sometimes at night, he would wake up abruptly and say, "She's calling," and I thought it was a joke or stress. But one night, I woke up and saw Igor standing by the window. Outside, there was no rain, just silence. But Anna is sure it all started after that night by the lake. She even showed me a photograph, taken that evening before dark. You can indeed see the reflection of the water in the background. And if you look closely, you can see someone's hand in the reflection. The fingers are elongated, thin, as if trying to crawl out from beneath the surface. When we finished talking, I asked her if she ever returned to that place. Anna shook her head. No, but I sometimes see the lake in my dreams. Only it's different, misty, without a reflection. I'm standing on the shore, and in the water is my silhouette. And suddenly I realize it's not my reflection. It's smiling, but I'm not. I listened and wrote down every word. Then I sat in silence for a long time. Because such stories have something in common. People who have experienced this describe the same feeling. Not fear, but the feeling that someone is watching from the other shore, waiting for you to take a step. Sometimes I think such places truly remember pain. They call to those who aren't afraid to look. And sometimes to those who are too similar to those who once stayed there.